5, 4, 10, right? This is something you could do, right? Let's pick again the person who is good at sounding, or we even send on a training, a basic training on how to, listen to people, how to encourage people, but their job really is to listen and maybe direct the person to where they can get the appropriate help, right? So we're saying leave, making people are taking leave, making people have people to talk to, right? And then also happy hours, right? We are champions of work and happiness, right? Encouraging work and happiness. Rice Friday, jollof rice Friday, porridge morning, whatever, right? The idea is that we're taking a few minutes, just an hour or two, just to not work, just to interact, just to talk about how we feel, just to chat, just to laugh, right? This is very important. Sometimes things to help the mental health does not have to be very regimented and over the top. People just need to have a break. And then sometimes need to have a break with their peers, right? So that's very important. Having some kind of happy hour that allows people to take breaks, or even they have time out. You have time out as a company or as teams, right? If the whole company cannot just switch off, we could move in departments or teams, right? Having their different days, just switch off. Okay. Then I'm very
Yes. Okay. Hello, wonderful business owners. Welcome to today's IG Live, your people and your business, with me, Dorcas, your host, and CEO in Serbia of OML Africa. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are talking about making difficult people decisions in economic crisis. Thank you, Anita, for joining us today. Welcome.
Thank you. Today I'm talking to you from home.
Yes. Okay, so Anita, today's discussion, can you tell us, working with businesses, what are the effects of the economic crisis on managing their workers?
So currently, all over the world, there's a bit of an economic crisis going on for various reasons that we know. We're coming out of COVID, and I'm saying that all over. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better.
Okay. So I was saying that at the moment, all over the world, some countries are affected by the economic crisis, which has come out of COVID, and then of course the war and a whole load of stuff. So currently in our space, we're also feeling that impact. So basically, what that means is that business in some industries and sectors is slow. And or there's no business, so that means that it's affecting obviously income, that's revenue into the business, which is giving employers challenges in terms of keeping their staff, running their operations, and so on, right? So obviously when that happens, it becomes very difficult. Employers try their best to keep their staff going, but of course if money from suppliers or customers are not coming in as they should, then it's going to affect payroll and delays in resources and so on and so forth. So currently that is what businesses are facing. And in other places, it's important that you look at what kind of strategies, a bit like what the strategies we were looking at during the COVID times, right, in order to keep the business going and also keep as much of your top work.
To save costs, what are some of the other options an employer can consider aside from laying off workers?
Okay, the decision to lay people off, whether it's redundancy, temporary layoffs, It's all really based on revenue, how much money the company has to keep its operations going in the next 6 months,
Sorry,
12
Anita, we
months,
can't hear
2
you.
years.
The network is in places.
Yeah, I'm saying that, yeah, I think it's the
Yes.
network. I'm saying that the ability for an employer to decide whether it will lay people off or make them redundant is all dependent on the money they have, right? And how long that money can last. Whether it can last, run the business for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, or not. Okay, so that's the first thing. But some of the things that employers can look at would be things like considering reducing salaries. But of course, if you're going to reduce salaries, you need to get the buy-in from staff. So you would want to have a conversation with the employees, explain the situation, and then discuss with them a range. So by range, we mean you ask them, okay, we're in a difficult time. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. When it's good, let's agree what the company can pay to keep us going. And when it's bad, let's agree what the company may say, for example, when it's not great, we can take half our salary, right? We didn't really try and pay less than half the salary. And then when things are okay, anything between 80, the lowest being 80%, 100% ideally is what you want, but at least 80%. So now you have a range of 50 to 80, right? In terms of employees agreeing that when things get very bad, we are okay for you to pay us half our salary. And when things are okay, we are okay for you to pay us 80%. And when things are good, we are okay for you to pay us 100% of our full salary. So if you should pay them, that you are owing, you reimburse them what you are owing them. All right. So you can have conversations with the staff and discuss this and come to a range and get them to agree. And then at least you know what you're working with. So when things get good, things get bad, you know what you're working with. You don't have to keep going back to your employees. You've already agreed the way forward, right? The other thing you can do is to reduce hours. If you reduce hours, then that means that you're reducing the salaries, right? Or you can do that these are all some of the things you can do temporarily, right? You can reduce hours, you can discuss with employees to have a salary reduction range that, as I said, you use when things are good, when things are bad. So you can reduce hours, that will mean reducing their pay. You can have people also maybe job share. So instead of maybe telling you I can't keep you, maybe I'll say, okay, I can keep you if you share the job. So we'll lose one salary, but we'll share one salary, right? So you could do that. The other thing is also looking at reducing operational costs. So if jobs can work from home instead of coming to the office or the workplace, which means you're using electricity, you're paying for internet, like you're paying more, you can always ask staff to work from home. So one, they are saving on transportation, right? Especially if you've not been able to pay them, right? Some companies have not paid salaries 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, right? So if you let those roles that can work from home, you are saving them the financial burden of having to find money to come to work when their salaries are not being paid or their salaries are half or whatever, right? So you can offer those roles to work from home. The only issue when it comes to working from home is that managers or business owners don't take the time to define what needs to be done so they can track what is being done. So if you just do that exercise, life becomes easier in knowing what is being done when people are working from home. All right. You can also offer people part-time work as a temporary fix. So, that one is more of a contractual change. So I'm offering you part-time for the next 6 months, okay, and then we'll review. You can also offer that. And then the reality is you may have excess people. You may have to let people go. So you have to look at the roles that are, these are the roles that if they're not in, your business can't run. Roles that you can merge into other people, meaning that if, let's say, we didn't have an office receptionist, we can all answer the phone, right? So we are saving overhead. Let's say we need someone who is, who who is checking out online, and then we have someone who's doing the post. We have to have the person doing the post also do the check line. Like I'm saying, when you come to decide on roles to go, you need to make sure you're protecting the roles that keep the business going, because that's the whole idea. You keep the business going and the business comes out of trouble, you can rehire the people or hire new staff, right? But if the business goes down, you can't hire anybody, right? And so that's what we mean by making difficult people's decisions. So if you try all the other things we've talked about, reduce salaries, reduce hours, job share, it's not working, you definitely have to get rid of people. You have to focus on keeping the road, like keep the business going. Okay. So that's the other thing. There are other things you can consider. You can offer people unpaid leave, right, which means they're still employed, but they are able to go and maybe do other things because you can't afford to pay them. And then when you're back in the green, you can always call them back, right? Or career break, we sometimes also call that unpaid career break. So you're not losing your talent. Now, having said that, at the end of the day, you also have talent, and people may want to, look at other opportunities because people have different challenges, different requirements in their lives, right? Insofar as they want to be very supportive to their company, they also have their own responsibilities. So they may not be able to see through the whole thing with you to the end. But sometimes if you can also do something, it may help. So we know that in the COVID period, during the time, for a lot of the top talent for some of our clients, some of the things we did was those who were the top talent, we made sure that a certain percentage of their salaries was always paid, even in the most difficult time for the client. That's what we did. And then when we had to lay some of them off, we agreed this retainer allowance, right? That just meant that you are still employed. It's just that because of the situation, we're not having work for you, or we can't pay you full, but we're retaining you, which means you're still an employee because you're receiving a retainer allowance. So we were able to retain a good number of talents that way, right? With this retainer allowance when they were laid off or they were asked to go home, right? So these are some of the things you can do. That's for the top talent. These are the people who are, let's say, steady in the back office, those who are in the sales, those who know the business, right? And we have maybe, let's say, double or triple of them, but we can't keep all of them in. So the top ones are kept in, right? And then we keep them as the other ones are second. Like they're all good, but you have to select the ones that okay, in this state, this is the one. But those ones too, we don't want to lose them. So there's this whole retainer allowance agreement that you can come up with, right? To keep them knowing that they're still employed. So you don't lose your talent. Because some companies or some businesses have people in roles that are unique to the business, right? It's not easy for them to go and just find somebody else to replace. So in those instances, that's what you need to think about. If you're thinking about laying off, or if you're having to tell your staff to go home or relax a bit, you need to have some kind of incentive, which is this allowance I'm talking about, to keep them so they don't obviously go and leave you in that way, right? So those are some of the things.
Okay, so what is an organization's most important financial strategy in a financial crisis?
Okay, so it's what we call business continuity, right? And it has 4 areas. I mean, we are usually focusing on the people and then the financial, the bottom line. But it has the marketing, it has the financial, it has the people, and then the production or the operations, right? That's the 4 areas. And the aim is to keep the business going. And the way to keep the business going is money. So from the people side, we want to focus on all the jobs that actually bring money into the business: marketing, sales, finance, right? It depends on the business, but the area that brings the money in, right, is the one that we'll be focusing on. And the area that saves money. So the finance becomes a very important factor during business continuity, because their role is to make sure that monies are coming in, they are having creative ways of paying suppliers, salaries, making cuts in terms of operational costs, right? And then also coming up with ways to make our money work better for us. Okay, so as a business, you need to have a business continuity plan right now, right? You need to have a business period. It doesn't matter whether your business is 1 man, 2 man, 100,000 people. a sustainable business must have a business continuity plan, so that in times of crisis like this, where we are in a bit of a yo-yo, today is okay, then it sort of goes okay, then it goes down again. You need a plan to speak to those instances, right? And the plan has to speak to your marketing, your sales, your operations or production, and your human resource, that's your workers, your people. Okay. And each element of that will have an element of financial needs. Okay. For which you manage centrally in your financial planning, which is the financial side of the business continuity plan. Do you get what I mean? So financial management, or should I say financial literacy for business, especially small businesses, entrepreneurs, small businesses is a big deal, because a lot of the big businesses, established ones, usually will have this plan and strategies. But sometimes when it's just kind of one person's business and they've not put the systems in and so on, it can become this thing of they're just kind of managing from what they think, what they know, very reactionary. It's like every day is something. But we always try and say to the small businesses, if you can, please take the time to put some of these things in. These are the things that build sustainable businesses. These are the things that build businesses that stand for a long time, that also withstand, turbulent times. So yes, you need good financial planning and financial management that looks at these 4 areas that you mentioned.
Right. Okay, so then how can managers retain their top talent even when they cannot pay them enough?
Well, top talents also understand where they are in an organization. It's not always also about the money. It's also about the development and the experience, right? At the end of the day, it's about the managers engaging with, or the owners engaging with the staff, to also understand that yes, we're in a crisis and yes, we get it. We get the whole financial thing. But at the end of the day, you could also leave and go somewhere. And I always say, whenever you leave and go somewhere, you have to serve a probation. So long as you have to serve a probation, it's not guaranteed that job. They could turn around during the probation, or at the end of that probation, tell you, we're actually not giving you the job. Meanwhile, you've given up to a good job somewhere. Do you understand? So before you make decisions, you need to be very clear that you're going to be able to go and do that job. Number 2, that there's going to be some kind of progression and all of that, and not just look at the salary they're giving you. When you're good at what you do, salary chases you. You don't chase salary. I've been saying this for many years now, right? So I think what managers need to do is to engage the people and let them understand that, of course, we're going to a crisis. It's not going to be permanent, but we are in it. We want to retain you. What do we need to do to help you? And somebody may say that, okay, you know what? I need at least 70% of my salary in order to survive, right? I need to have maybe a bit of flexibility to reduce the cost. So if you're going to give me 70%, maybe can I work 3 days at home, 2 days in the office, a hybrid system? Or can you help me with increase my transportation, or can you help me with my rent, and that will help me be okay? So it's a conversation as well, right, with the top talent to understand what minimum or what essentials can be put in place to keep them going, right? Sometimes in these scenarios, this is where if you have a good HR, you got good support, is very good, because they can have these conversations. Sometimes owners find it very difficult to talk about these things. It's not easy being a business owner and having to go to your staff and tell them, I can't pay you, or I have to cut your salary, or I have to let some of you go, and all of that. A lot of business owners don't feel very good about it. A lot of small businesses, they don't, right? Because they actually, when they have good staff, when they have staff, they treat their businesses like a family. So it's always like, oh my God, my family is falling apart, right? But unfortunately in business, there comes those times where you do have to make these difficult decisions, right? And I feel when you bring the narrative, when you engage the staff and you talk to them and you explain and let them see, they themselves will even bring you suggestions, and they are usually willing. There's a lot of good workers that will not abandon you during your time of crisis, right? They will find a way to work with you out of the crisis. And that happens when you are able to speak to them about the issues, right? But at the same time, too, we don't also want to go so deep into negativity that they may feel like, oh my gosh, we're not going to recover, or things are just going to get worse. You just need to speak to what is currently happening, but you must also have the upbeat that we are going to get out of this, right? So it shouldn't just be doom and gloom. It should be, yes, we're in a bit of a crisis at the moment, but actually, if we do this, and that, and we keep doing it, we're going to come out of it, and we're going to come out of it stronger. We're going to come out of it with new ideas to get new customers, to bring back customers, so that there is also that we maintain that level of hope, enthusiasm, and motivation, even in times of crisis. Yeah, so that's how managers can do. Stick to the talent and look at some of the other things that we were talking about at the beginning of the line.
Okay, so when there is no choice but to lay off staff, what are some of the fairer approaches managers could take for damage control?
Okay, so when it comes to making redundancies or laying people off, it's probably one of the areas that even me as a consultant for so many years, I don't particularly like it. It's quite upsetting, but at the end of the day, we have to hold it down and we have to go through the situation. So the best way to manage the situation is to be as fair as possible, right? So that's what I'm saying. First of all, we need to identify what is the core role for the business, right? And who are in those core roles. And then we need to determine what we call objective factors to determine how we are selecting people. You see, when you kind of do selection by subjectivity, which is I just decide, okay, I want to take Dorcas, I want to take Amma, I'm going to take Sarah, right? And then maybe Dorcas asks me, well, why have I been selected to go, and why has Sally not been selected, right? And I'm not able to explain it. It means I've probably done it based on who I like or who I think is more loyal to me. Like I think for this one, I'm talking to the small business and the business owners, right? And so already, we've created a scenario of not goodwill. At the same time, you have those who are staying, also watching how you treat those who you have to let go, right? And so if you don't handle the thing well, you realize that those you have to go, but then there's a bit of a bad atmosphere. People become disgruntled. They don't say anything. They just wait for an opportunity, and then you start seeing what we call free agents. They all start bouncing out at the earliest opportunity. So how you handle layoffs and redundancies, etc., is very, very important. All right. Sorry, I'm talking to you from home today, so the noise is a bit. I apologize.
Okay, we can hear
So
you.
what we say is that set objective criteria. So objective criteria would be performance outputs. What has been the performance output of the staff, right? Okay, so we want to pick staff who have been scoring satisfactory performance, so 3 or above, right? So performance rating to be 1, right? And in this instance, because we are looking at layoffs and things, we may want to look at performance output for maybe the last 2 years, last 3 years. So that's an objective measure. So it's either you score 3, 4, 5, 1. I cannot make it up. That's what the scoring would have given, right? Number 2, you may want to look at sickness records, right? Sickness records may be one that you will look at. How much sickness has that person been taken? You look at length of service. It's also another objective factor to use in terms of your selection for who to lay off and whatnot. You look at the job in terms of the value adding, or how core is that job to the business. Okay, so let's say that we're a seamstress shop, we're a designer shop, and we design and sew things. Clearly, we know that the seamstress is going to be key to the operations, right? Are you getting me?
Yeah.
And then we know that if we're going to keep our production team, we know the key people for production, right? We need our cutters, we need our sewers, we need our hands. So we need to pick the best of them. All right. So you are now picking your best from this group. So that's what we're talking about. Picking your best from your essential group you've identified. We're saying use objective criteria, performance rating, length of service, sickness record, disciplinary record, right? These are all things that are factual information. We call them factual information because if you took 20 days off and it's been recorded, you signed the form, you brought your excuse duty, and I tell you that you've had 20 days off, Dorcas has only had 5, and so Dorcas has scored 10, you have scored 1. Can you dispute the sick leave? No, the records are there, okay? So in as far as possible, you want to use criteria that is factual information rather than subjective, what we think, what we feel, this person is this one knows, this one no. But that may not necessarily be the best person that you're selecting, right? Objective criteria help us to select the best people, okay, out of the group of already good people, let's put it that way, right? So you create these objective criteria, and then you have to decide a rating for them. Okay, so where the person meets the requirements. So, for example, for sickness record, right? We may have people who score between 0 and 5. We may give them 10 marks. Anybody who scored 5 to, I don't know, 20, you get 5. Right? And then if you score higher than that, is 0. So basically what you do is you create a rating, and the highest rating goes to the meeting of the requirement. Okay, so if we look at the performance, if the person has been scoring 3 for the past 3 years, it means they've been satisfactory meeting performance. We may give them a 5. But if someone has been scoring 4 or 5, this is exceeding or outstanding, we may score them 10. All right, so you create a rating that aligns with the factors, and that's what you use to score each individual. But at the end of the day, you'll be able to add up all the scoring and know the highest score. So obviously, you pick your top 10, top 20, depending on the number of employees of the exercise. And they will be the ones who keep, and those who score the lowest will be the ones that you will lay off or make redundant or, you know, these other activities we've been talking about with. Do you understand?
Yes.
You see, it's very important in as far as possible, and this does not matter whether you are hiring 1 person, 2 persons, whether is you the business owner and another person, or even the person. As long as you've got a human being working with you, and as long as you've got a business where you've got customers, it is so important to use data and structured ways of doing things in as far as possible, so that your business is sustainable. I'm always repeating this, all right? But sometimes we are driven by our emotions, what we think, we just think these things are time consuming. They are not. These things are very important, and once you put them in your business, every time a problem comes, you already know how you're going to approach it. Do you see what I'm saying? And then your employees know that you are fair about the way you approach things. Do you get what I'm saying? As suggest, we are randomly just deciding who stays, who goes. We don't give explanations to people, and then sometimes people have been with us a long time. People have been very loyal, and then we just get rid of them anyhow. And then the people who get left behind see this and feel like, hey, one day I could be treated like this, and they now have become free agents and are plotting to leave us. We are saying, please, let's not do that. Let's have some form of objective way of selecting people we want to lay off. We have to make redundant. Even if we have to even tell them that they should temporarily take some unpaid leave or career breaks. Let's handle it well by having conversation. And I always say that just because you're the owner of the business or the CEO or the CFO, even the HR manager, does not mean you are necessarily the best person to talk to people in crisis like this. There may be another person in a business who may be the administration manager, or even the office, the logistics, somebody else is the point I'm making, who for some reason has a better people skills, better way of talking. Maybe they even build better relationships with the staff in terms of being influential, and they should be the one doing the talking. The fact that you are a business owner, CEO, CFO, or even if we're talking about established businesses, right, where you have boards and management teams, and that does not necessarily always mean the people we think the HODs are the ones to do the talking. Maybe the middle managers, right, because they have a better rapport with the staff. So let's also think about the people we select to go and do conversation, because if we also pick the wrong people who don't apply the right level of sensitivity, the right level of interview, one of very good with managing their emotional intelligence, who actually even can't deal with the response an employee may give. I mean, we've been doing this a long time. Employees can burst into tears. It can be very emotional. If you don't send the right person, and you yourself as an owner, you know you're not very good at handling these type of challenges, please take time and find the right person to help you to do that instead of taking it on yourself. And then that in itself can cause problems, right? Because it's a very difficult situation. It's very emotional. It's very sensitive, and it has to be handled as such. So we are also saying that we shouldn't operate this thing on, well, these are the people we have to deal with this. Like, if you need to bring external help in, do so. If you need to choose the person who you wouldn't be the one, but we know is the right person, let's choose that person and let that person be the one to talk to the employees about layoffs and redundancies rather than the wrong person. All right, which can be very, very detrimental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so bring us to the end of the conversation. I'd like to ask, what are some ways HR managers can help their team reduce stress during these economic crises?
Okay, that's a very good question, because during this time, it is, it's just kind of expected that people are coping. In fact, we have realized that, through following research, through surveying, through working with employees ourselves as we manage the company's HR departments and we inherit all the staff and all of the issues, we realized since COVID, that mental health issues, I think it's Mental Health Month this month, and we are doing various things to kind of raise awareness and talk about it. But the mental health issues going on in Ghana, in Africa, right? I want to specifically make it clear. In Ghana, in Africa, whether it be Nigeria, Kenya, and we're talking the continent, is high, right? And it's a big deal because this is not something that sits uniquely in our culture. We're not the African culture does not encourage people to talk about their problems out openly or outside. Everything is supposed to be behind closed doors, all right? But now people are having difficulties, right? It's financial, it's emotional, it's personal in their homes, it's their children, it's just issues. Right, so it's not necessarily work even related. It may not even be the work your staff is doing as the problem. In fact, your work may be even the least of the problems, right? But the issue is, it's entwined, right? So now as employers in Africa, we can't really ignore the mental health of our staff, right? We have to find ways of handling it. Even though we feel it's not our problem, why should I've got to think about the business. Whether you think it's a problem or not, it is here, right? It is something you have to look at how you embrace, okay? So you do have to look at things you can do. And I always say with everything, let's start off with the small, and then we build it up, right? But you can't ignore it. Mental health is a big issue. And when we talk about mental health, it's not just that. We're talking about the mental health in terms of the mental state to be able to perform. We know physical health is very important, and we also know emotional health is very important. And all of these all are intertwined, okay? So for mental health, is about making people aware of their limits, okay? So that's where we do things like making sure people are taking their leave, people are having their short breaks. In some companies, we have these stress days. People can ask, can I have a stress day because maybe they feel overwhelmed, right? But what's important that even if you want to work just within the remit of what the law offers, is that people are supposed to take annual leave. Make sure people are taking some time out. Go doesn't make any difference if the person's mind is not okay. It's just a waste of, there's no productivity. I can tell you that for free. So give them some time. Make sure people are taking some time out. One day here, even if it's every 2 weeks, every month, make sure people are having the break that they need, right? Make sure that there is someone that the persons can talk to. And I'll come back to this point, right? Whether it's their manager, whether you're going to say, okay, we're going to have press buddies or buddies for soundboards or whatever you want to call it, right? The idea is that encouraging people to kind of share some of their burdens, with their colleagues, having, because sometimes when you talk about things, it makes you feel better, right? I'm talking about the cost-effective approach, right? Because a company, small businesses may not have money to bring in counselors and things, which I'll come on to, right? So this may be the simple one. Maybe you're just a team of 3, 5, 4, 10, right? This is something you could do, right? Let's pick again the person who is good at sounding, or we even send on a training, a basic training on how to, listen to people, how to encourage people, but their job really is to listen and maybe direct the person to where they can get the appropriate help, right? So we're saying leave, making people are taking leave, making people have people to talk to, right? And then also happy hours, right? We are champions of work and happiness, right? Encouraging work and happiness. Rice Friday, Jollof Rice Friday, porridge morning, whatever, right? The idea is that we're taking a few minutes, just an hour or two, just to not work, just to interact, just to talk about how we feel, just to chat, just to laugh, right? This is very important. Sometimes things to help the mental health does not have to be very regimented and over the top. People just need to have a break. And then sometimes need to have a break with their peers, right? So that's very important. Having some kind of happy hour that allows people to take breaks, or even they have time out. You have time out as a company or as teams, right? If the whole company cannot just switch off, we could move in departments or teams, right? Having their different days, just switch off. Okay. Yeah. Mental health awareness is very important. People must understand that their physical, emotional, and mental health is important, right? So we're talking about how to keep their mind. So when you know you're overloaded, speak to your manager, get you to see how the work can be reorganized, right? So get some help. That all helps, right? Making sure that we have someone to talk to, making sure that we have happy hours, right? So that we are having time off as a team or as a department or as a company. Okay, these are basic ones for those who don't have budget to do some of the things we know others with budget can do. But if you have budget, right, I can tell you that some of the things that we have been doing at OML, we know other companies are doing, is that now, because counseling or seeing a therapist or a life coach, or however you want to term it, basically someone independent that you can talk to, it is not something that sits in our culture, right? It isn't, right? If you hear therapist or counseling, you think of US, UK, right? But that has changed now, right? It's changed. Now on this continent, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, wherever, this is terminologies you are going to hear because people have shifted, okay? So we know that even though that is the case, people still feel anxiety. People still don't want people to know they are struggling, they are having problems. Because it's not something that sits in that. Now, when you've learned the behavior, sometimes it takes a long time for you to let go of. So now you have all these apps, right? You have medical institutions offering these platforms where I can be in my room as your employee. You have subscribed to the service. And when I feel stressed, I want to talk to a therapist, I want to talk to a counselor, all I have to do is go on this app and log on and speak to somebody. Dorcas has no idea I'm even talking to anybody, right? I don't have to tell anybody my business. I don't have to tell the HR. I don't have to tell the managing director. I don't have to tell anybody, right? But I can use the service in my own time, right? That's there. There are also counselors that face-to-face counselors, or they also do it virtually. We know it. We know them, right? If any of you are interested, you can always DM us and we can recommend the ones we know, right? And you can buy counseling time. So you can say as a company, I'm going to buy every week 2 hours, right? And everybody gets 10 minutes or 15 minutes with the counselor, face-to-face or virtual, right? When it's face-to-face, the counselor will come onto your site and meet with the staff who have booked in what we call slots. If it's virtual, they will, again, you will fill in the slot. The person who are trying to do that will put the slots, and then they will know who's seeing them, and they will have these virtual meetings with them, right? Confidentially, okay? When you want to understand, is there anything I need to know? The counselors are very professional. They will tell you that, okay, maybe you need to look at the workload, but they're not going to tell you, Dorcas said, or Dorcas, they're not going to do that. And we actually don't need to know that. We just need to know if there's anything work related that we need to be working on. So they may say, okay, maybe look at your working hours, maybe look at the workload, and then we know generically, let's go and look at that, because maybe that is some of the topics that is coming up when they are talking to the staff, right, that are using the service. Okay. So those of you who have budget, use ERP, we call them, right, employee assistance program, to help your staff, right, whether it's through the virtual or face-to-face or the app. So that's available. And I'm telling you, people are using them now here, right? In Ghana, in Nigeria, in Kenya, on this continent, it's happening. Companies are offering this service to their staff, okay? And we, as always, want to champion more employers to kind of sign up to this, because right now there has been a shift in the way your workers operate, right? And you have to adapt yourself, okay? So there is that. There is also more other additional things, right, that can be done in terms of trying to help with the mental health outside of the awareness, right? We can also make sure that we're looking at how we are organizing work. The happy hours can go a bit more in a higher level, where they can become at a fixed time. People actually take time out. We also use that session to really explore what we're doing as a team or department. Depends on the size and the approach you're taking, right? So we can increase that to add a bit more budget. So this time we're actually going out of the company. We're going to go somewhere. We're going to play games. We're going to, talk. If you have a good facilitator, they will facilitate so that we can share our strengths, weaknesses, and people get opportunity to kind of air out some of these things as well. All right. And definitely the education will stand whether you have budget or not. So these are some of the things you can consider in terms of helping with the managing of mental health, emotional health issues. Some of the issues that are personal, family issues and that's where sometimes the counselors will also be good for, right? But it's important that if you have an HR or whoever looks after the people, that they are constantly reminding people that if they need help, they should seek help, right? It would be good as an employer to also maybe have a list of places people could go for help, right? If you are not able to offer, because you can only do so much as well, let's be fair, as an employer, right? Some can only do so much. So if you know that, I can do this to this point, but I can't do anymore. Maybe you want to have other agencies that are there that can actually help them, so that it's not like go and seek help, but we are not able to make any list, recommend, or give them a number to call, right? So there are agencies, there are NGOs, there are institutions that can help, right? Even medical facilities and stuff that are offering certain services. So your HR, whoever, your admin, whoever can do this research and have this list, so that when people come and they have time, they can say, okay, well, this is what we found, maybe you can check them out. That's if you're not having the service in-house, right? To make sure that we're helping people to actually find solutions, right? And not just saying, well, go and seek help. Some people don't actually know where to go, right? To go and seek that help. Okay, so that's some of the things we could look at as a start.
Wow. The mental health part was really interesting. Okay, so I'll take a recap. Of our conversation so far. So we have established that in this economic crisis, employers should consider options like working from home, merging of roles, implementing retainer allowances in order to manage and keep their valued staff. We have also covered the essence of businesses having business continuity plans for business sustenance. We have looked at ways in which management can retain top talent even without money. We have also talked about the mental health of the employees. And we've also established that just because you are a manager or a CEO of a company, it may not mean you are the best person to talk to people during these situations. It is important to seek help from the right people, and also remember that mental health of your employees is very, very important. Also, if you're out of all these options, OML Africa has services suitable for these situations. Do you have any last words for us, Madam?
Yeah. I want to say that, we survived COVID, right? COVID was a hellish period for anybody who owned business or was in business, who was an employee in a business, can tell you that that wasn't a very good, it was just a terrible time. And we survived it, and now we're in this economic situation. And I believe if we survive COVID, we should be able to survive it. But I want to just employ the small businesses, because we know that the large businesses, as we always say, we know those clients, they always have, because of their nature of how they're structured and etc., they usually have some of these things, right? Or they have budgets to buying or do some of the things that we're saying. But the small businesses is not always easy for, right? When you're just like maybe 3 people, 5 people, what we call the micro, maybe 10, and also you're having challenges with revenues and things like that. It's not easy. So I always want to encourage that, because it isn't, let's sit within the remit of little or no money and just do the minimum, right? Because even though it's like that, you still have to do something, right?
Yes.
Because you know what I'm trying to say? Like, even though it's like that, you still have to do something. So if you stay on the side of, okay, let me try at least have at least an essential minimum, right? Okay, of the activities I can do during this time, right? From how I handle my staff, and if I have to let people go, to dealing with issues of, trying to make sure that their mental, emotional, physical health are okay. Let me work with what I can do from the resources that I have, right? And sometimes it's not money. Sometimes it's time, right? Sometimes it's also being able to tap into your network of resources, right? Sometimes it may mean that maybe you also know people, you also know another small business owner that you have a good relationship with, right? Maybe you have $10. They also have $10. Maybe if you think like, well, this thing, they said if it's 20, we can get maybe 20 employees, right? But you only have 10. But if we bring our 10 together, we got 20. We can get this plan, right? And I have 10 for my company, my staff. You have 10 for. So look at leveraging and partnerships, right? Especially with people that you know and trust. Look at partnerships. Sometimes you can share the cost, share the burden with another business owner that you know, right? And so on. And sometimes you can negotiate, right, with some of the services or products that you have, right? So maybe if you have a service, you need insurance, or you need whatever, right? You may be able to trade off, right, using your service or your product. Get creative. In times of crisis, we have to come out of comfort zone. I know comfort zone you don't want to hold on to because we know it and we feel safe in it. But seriously, I don't know any business that either went up or survive staying in comfort zone. A lot of businesses go down because they stay in comfort zone. They're not ready to try something to even see what they can bring, right? So just think a little bit outside of the box. You have services, you have products, right? Some of you are having knowledge, you have things going on that people need. So you can use some of that to negotiate some of the things you need, right? That's all part of it. So you may not necessarily be exchanging money, but you may be using your service to pay or products to pay. Consider that. You may be able to partner with another small business that you know, owner that you know, right? Or you can work with, right, to be able to bring in this, like we're talking about the medical apps and things, to buy it together, and then your staff will be able to access it, right? The counseling time. Just think about what you can leverage off and partner or think outside to help you to do some of these things. But I'm just encouraging you to at least do something. Even in each area, you just did one thing, 2 things. That's the start, right? Then you can increase it as things improve for you. But please don't just not do anything, because to be fair with you, employees also have lives. Some have, I categorize them into those who may be at home, they have parents and family who can actually support them and hold them, so they can stick it out with you to a certain point. You also have those who may be at home, but they don't have the luxury of that support, right? So they have to borrow from people and stuff, but they also have limited time, because also if you borrow from me and then I don't see anything for 3 months, when you come again, I'm not going to give you because you haven't seen what you borrowed. So they also have limited time. And you have those who really just don't have even the option 1 and 2, right? They have holding the responsibilities in their home, so they want to go to the end of the world with you in this crisis, but they can't because their homes, their bottom line is in on fire, right? They've literally come to the point that they can't give you any more than what they've given you. So you also have to try something, right? You have to move that bit of step, even if you're feeling like, well, that's also very uncomfortable for me. I'm just trying to let you know that you have these types of employees, and even the ones that can, because at some point somebody in the house will tell them, well, you know, I think you tried. I think it's time you moved on, right? Because they're not also seeing anything coming from you, right? This is small businesses, right? So you've got to look at least let me try something, right? As a step, and then, you know, build it. But to just do nothing, honestly, I will not sit here and tell you it will not have consequences. It will, right? Eventually it will. And of course, then of course you have to deal with it the best you can. But I always think if you can control it, then control it. Don't let it come out of your hands, right? Where people who we believe in are not the people you want to leave, right? And the people who are staying may not necessarily be the people who are the priority for you for them to stay in your business. So please just take the time and look. I mean, we are going to be sharing some resources for small businesses in this crisis, like checklists and you know, some resources on our social handles, on our websites, and that you can download and things like that to kind of guide, because we also want to be as helpful as we can to not just our customers, but to people who we know they follow us and stuff like that. You attend our webinars, you're always listening to us to see how you can do better. So we'll be doing these small business during the crisis stuff, and putting some steps and things to help that you can also you can tap into it and stuff. And then of course always do your, you know, you DM us questions, and we don't have problem answering questions here and there. If you are having issues or you're not sure or you want to try something, you know, it's about relationship as well, right? So, you know, we're encouraging you, because we as human capitalists, we don't want people to lose their jobs. We don't want businesses to go down. So we know that when businesses take action, you know, you minimize what is happening. So I'm hoping that all of you at least will go and reflect, and you will try to put something in place to handle your people during these difficult times, and not end up losing your best talent. It can seriously affect your bottom line as a business. All right.
Wow. Try and do something in an economic crisis as a small business. Do not sit and watch it all crumble, Madam Anita said. Wow. I'm positive everyone into business management who has joined this live session has learned a thing or two. Thank you so much, our viewers, for being with us. Thank you so much for joining us. You can check out our other sessions on our pages. Do not forget to follow and turn on our notifications, which is on IG OML Africa, for more of these insightful discussions. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, OML Africa. Thank you so much for joining us, Madam Anita, and to our audience. Thank you and goodbye. See you another time. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us and seeing at the next live. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Bye.
Bye.